My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome everybody. Eli here, and we are back to another fun show with Meet Cool People. And this is an awesome dude that I got the introduction from. I'm going to make sure I get the right episode number. It was Andy Greider, who was episode 79, so not too long ago. He introduced Jon Goehring and I, and he is from Jon Goehring Voiceovers. He specializes in podcast and audio production. He's a radio professional and a proud Syracuse University grad. And he and I had an amazing conversation about 2 weeks ago. Hit it off immediately. I was like, yeah, this is a cool dude. I want to introduce him to everybody else. So with that, Jon, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Eli, thanks for having me, man. This is such a cool platform, and I'm honored to be called one of these cool people that you talk with.
Yeah, well, I always have to tell people about this, the fact that if somebody asks to be on the show, there's usually a good chance the answer is going to be no. Because it is the fact that it's conversations that I have. And just like Andy, same thing with you and I had a great conversation. It's like we get on a call, we just start chatting, talking about history of some of our backgrounds and everything. We're like, all right, yeah, I like this dude. I think that we should continue this conversation and share it with everybody else. And that's exactly how the show runs.
Yeah.
So you fit the bill, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. That's how you build trust, right? Is not through sales conversations, not through cold reach outs and, just hammering people with, hey, I should be on your show, but actually through genuine conversation.
Real conversations with real people makes all the difference. So yes. I gave kind of a quick little bio about you, but tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, how you got started, and all this fun stuff, and how are you helping your clients?
So starting my voiceover business is really the most recent of the changes that I've gone through in life. And life is full of its ups and downs, right? And full of its obstacles that we go through. And one of them early on in my college career was, even though I was passionate about newspaper writing and telling stories through the written word, I realized that the newspaper industry wasn't doing so hot. And that's when I jumped into the radio industry, walking into a college radio station. I fell in love with being behind the mic immediately. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I'm sure it is. Every radio host, every podcaster, we all have this ego, right? This inflated ego. And that was probably part of it. But I realized that there was opportunity in this industry, maybe not in the traditional world of radio, though there was for me an opportunity here in Rochester, New York that I took and I worked in for a few years, but also in the expanding podcasting space, the expanding content creation space of all kinds. So starting in radio, I ended up, long story short, working for a few years in local radio here, realized that the fate of the newspaper industry was kind of repeating itself for the radio industry. And I thought, why do I love getting into dying genres of work? This sucks. Like, what am I doing here? Can I find something that isn't literally dying? Well, I did, and that was podcasting. I left radio to begin my own voiceover business, which is what all the radio people do. They're like, radio has either laid me off or my radio station that I work for has been sold to a different company or whatever. Well, let's see, what can I do? I can do voiceover. I can talk. That's what I do for a living, right? So that's what I decided to do too, jump on the bandwagon that everybody else was doing. And actually about a third of my work today is the traditional voiceover work, narrating audiobooks, narrating commercial spots, being that announcer dude who, is telling you to save whatever percentage on your insurance. That's me. in part of my life. That's about a third of my work. But then I also decided, since so many people were getting into voiceover, the audio production and voiceover world is now being infiltrated by AI as well, which I know is a topic that a lot of people like to talk about, especially with a voiceover guy. It's a hot button issue. Right. I decided to go into content creation as a whole. So producing podcasts, putting out even video production for people. Those are things that I now get to do, a wide variety of stuff to make people's content cut through and build trust with your content online. That's what I'm passionate about helping people do. And I realized that it's so much more than just the voice that was transferable from radio. It was a lot of different skills and relationships that I built over the years. And so much of that has helped me now in my business today. So that's me in a nutshell. And here I am getting to meet cool people like you because of this business. So it's really exciting.
Awesome. You touched on several things I want to unpack here. One of them was talking about how, industries start shutting down. Like we look at newspaper now, but the thing with that is that, like, we look at radio, we've been doing the same thing, but it evolves. I think it's like before we started recording, we were talking about Substack, and like Substack is now the new version of a newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Right. And before Substack, it was Medium, that channel. And so we look at all these things, and I always look at that. And I even do the same thing with what I do in the email marketing side is, where are we evolving and what is shifting in how the industry works? I think that we're all, especially with that rise of AI right now, we're all at a point of, okay, what's that next thing? But I think here's what I found personally, and I think this is a lot for where you are too, is that it's the technical side of the pushing of the buttons. That's something that's easy, and technology is always going to evolve in that standpoint. But the nuances, the actual skill set of why the stuff works, I think is the magic. And that's where I'm finding it. And I would put money on the fact that's kind of where you are too with your stuff, because for me personally, I get people that are like, oh yeah, just use AI to write all your emails. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can do that, but they'll suck,
Yeah.
But the reason now I can use AI to write emails, but the reason is because I know what to look for. I know how to tell it what to do because I've got 20 years experience in that. And like with you, it's the same thing. It's just a different medium. It's like with you, it's a voice, where it's me, it's writing, right? But it's the same thing in that aspect that you can get. I've even played with some of the voice AI stuff, and I look at it and it's like, it's okay, but it's not great. And there's the nuances, the pauses, the dramatic effects, all that kind of stuff that you as a voice professional know. And I have some experience in it because of a speaker, right? It's because of that. It's the same process. And it's like, but those nuances are what makes the difference. And I think that's where people like you and I'll always shine through this stuff.
Couldn't agree more. And I always like to say, I am a person of faith, but it doesn't matter if you're a person of faith or not. This universal lesson from the Bible, I think, is something that we can all take to this day. And that is, you reap what you sow. In other words, your output is directly related to your input, right? In anything, in relationships, in business, in life. And oftentimes AI is this idea of trying to shortcut and get a great output with little to no input. Right. And that's not the law of the universe, right? And so, with one, you make a good point. You could, and you can probably sniff those emails from a mile away. I know I can sniff those social media posts from a mile away. The overuse of emojis for some reason, like how many emojis can AI come up with? And those little dashes, like that.
The M dash, the evil M dash.
I know. Who writes that way, right? That's AI for you. So, and then the same thing you have in voiceover, which, can serve a good purpose. But you're right. Things change over time. And that's why we can't be married to the particular platform. We saw how many content creators on TikTok had a panic attack for a while there, while TikTok was going through all of its changes and potentially being totally removed here in the US. And so you can't get married to one particular platform. I'm fortunate that I didn't get attached to, the local FM radio station that I was working for. I could have. I know people who have. They've made that their entire identity. But no, I think it's so important to remove yourself from any individual. It's out of your control, right? But those skills that you build and the relationships that you nurture through wherever you are in life, that's what you can take with you, and nobody can ever take that away from you.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And I think that really, that brings something that I talk about quite a bit. And I think that this is another aspect of it. I think we could have a real fun conversation around is it's a lot of what you and I both do is around communication, right?
Yeah.
So again, mine is usually written word, but yours is audio. That skill set of how to communicate, how to share your voice and your thought process with other people and your experience, your knowledge with other people, that's what people are craving today. And that's what people get attracted to more than anything else. And it's not even like, I mean, let's face it. It doesn't matter what either one of us says. There's a million other people out there that say the same basic words.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But the difference is how we say it and our experiences with it. And I think that's where the magic comes to play. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, you know, you're helping people with their podcasts and you have experience as a radio personality. How, like, what are some of the things that people need to know right out of the gate that are like, okay, if you do these couple of things, you'll connect better with your audience? Like,
Sure.
What kind of tips like that do you have?
Yeah, I would say 3 things in particular. Number 1 is authenticity. I know it's a overused word, right? It's the big word now that we talk about. Be authentic, just be yourself. But it's true in content creation. In any podcasting, especially, we'll just use podcasting because that's something that I do a lot of and work with a lot of clients in. That authentic self that you have, that's really the only version of yourself that people want to see. Authenticity builds trust, and any content online that you put out there, it needs to build trust, because that, no matter what your goal is, building an audience, building a business, nurturing other relationships, that they all run on the currency of trust. So that's number 1, authenticity. Number 2, I would say professionalism. I think a lot of times in podcasting, we forget that we are always on stage. We are, whether we're recording a podcast, whether we're recording something for social media, or even if we're in a one-on-one networking call, our reputation is built based on what we're doing. So remaining professional, whatever professional looks like to you. I'm not saying, you can never cuss and you always have to wear a shirt and tie. That's not always professionalism, but I do believe that staying professional and staying true to your brand is another important piece of it. And finally is, I call it the 95-5 rule. It's all about creativity. 95% of the content that you put out there, 95% of your podcast episodes, whatever it may be, should be tried and true, proven types of content that your audience loves. And then those 5%, that leaves you an opportunity to play around a little bit, expand your reach, have some fun with it. Just assume that it's not going to work out, and you may be surprised when it does. So those are really the 3 big things for me is, number 1, first and foremost, always authentic conversations. Number 2, stay professional and true to your brand. Number 3, to use what's tried and true mostly, but every once in a while, try something different. Step outside of your comfort zone and measure how your audience reacts.
I love it. That definitely good stuff. And I love that, the authenticity thing. And I'm sure people have heard me probably say this a dozen times on this podcast. When it comes to authenticity, if you're trying to be authentic, you're probably doing it wrong.
True. Good point.
It's like, just be you. And, the second one I think is a really important one, especially we had this issue originally, like when everybody went to virtual from in person, and coming from a speaking standpoint, all of a sudden everybody's doing virtual, and all of a sudden people didn't even know what Zoom was before, and now they're using it. Right. But it's like people show up and they're like, it looks like they just rolled out of bed and the bed is behind them, not even made up. And I'm just like,
yeah,
that doesn't look good. That doesn't show that same professionalism that you did when you got up on stage.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things, a lot of people got lazy with that. And
sure.
And just like you said, it's not a matter of you have to be in a suit and tie. Like I'm in a t-shirt, right? I'm in a t-shirt, right. And I have nicer clothes depending on who my audience is, which I think is a really big one too. Know your audience, know who your people are.
Yeah.
You know, if your audience is, you know, blue collar workers, you're probably not going to walk in a suit. That doesn't make sense because they don't care about that. But, you know, show some bit of looking like a real professional. And I think, you know, and I even saw you did a video on your LinkedIn recently about like mic positioning. And
Yes.
it's like little things like that, paying attention to how does your mic sound?
Yep.
And, you know, it doesn't need to be closer. It doesn't be further away. Do you need to adjust it? Like I have this Yeti mic. I've had it for several years. It's amazing. I've had in the last month, I've had 2 people that I talked to that did not know the little settings on the back, what they meant.
Mm.
And I was able to help their mic quality go like 10 times better because they had it set for the ambient
Yep.
instead of directional. And I'm
Yep.
like, it's just that little switch. Make the one that looks like a little upside down heart. They're like, oh. And I'm like, there you go. That sounds better.
You got to
And
know
then,
to hit the switch though. And
yeah, they don't.
sometimes people don't, right?
Right.
Why would they?
Yeah. And I
But
love that. Like your LinkedIn profile does a lot of good stuff with that. So I highly recommend everybody. And we'll make sure we have the links and everything at the end of the show. But, you know, I love it that you're educating people in that kind of stuff because there's such simple little things.
yes.
But people just, it goes back to that. They don't know what they don't know. And so
Right.
these are kind of the things people need to stop and pay attention to. And these are the things we're talking about when it comes to professionalism. It's not anything fancy. Like, you know, for you, you've got a great camera, but you're just at your desk right there where I did the green screen. Like but
Yep.
they're both look great. And
Yep.
I always tell people are like, you must have all the great equipment and everything. And I was like, yeah, but you don't have to start there and you don't even have to go there. And to be perfectly honest, sometimes it's a pain, you know. You know, for me, having the purple background is kind of cool because everybody knows I'm the purple guy. But there's more work involved with that. There's more headaches and there's more tech to blow up. So professional doesn't mean spending a ton of money. It just means, you know, put on a shirt that doesn't have stains on it. Comb your hair.
Imagine that.
Don't have the camera pointing towards your bed that you didn't make up. Little things
Right.
like that.
Right. And if you do, make it at least.
Yeah,
like
at least make it.
say people who make their beds are like 80% more successful or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But still, I would say too, Eli, with the professionalism thing, sound quality and video quality, you nailed it. Lighting is so huge in video. You want to exponentially improve your video quality. It's not about how expensive your camera is.
Yeah.
You can have a USB camera, but if it's well lit, it's going to look so much better than a $5,000 camera with no lighting in the room, right? So that's so important. The other thing I see all the time is people trying to push too hard with their content creation. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's on their social media, and they're like pushing the envelope too much, getting more and more, I guess you would say, controversial with their content, trying to desperately find some sort of reaction because they think some reaction is better than no reaction. All press is good press, right? And while there is some truth to that in the media, when it comes to building trust with your audience, if you're trying to build a business through content creation, all press is not good press. Believe me, if you're trying too hard, trying to reach a broad audience by simply drawing attention to yourself. I mean, I could shake my butt here in front of the camera. I'd probably draw a lot of attention. The twerking Jon show. I don't know. We could have some fun with this, but that's not the professional that I'm looking for. And it speaks to what you said earlier, Eli, is know your audience, right? Yeah. And there isn't maybe an audience for that, but if you're looking to sell professional services and you're looking to build a trustworthy brand through content creation, the long, consistent haul that might be, quote, boring is so much better than trying to inject all these negative hooks and crazy controversial things simply because you're trying to seek attention.
Yeah, that is so good. I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm going to probably have nightmares about the shaking Jon butt thing, whatever. But
sorry to scar you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I already wasn't sleeping good lately. But you know, you bring up a really, really good point, and I think it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, which is people pushing the envelope. They're going after like, what's the hook? And that's what, especially when you're looking at video, YouTube, stuff like that, that's like the big buzzword is like, what's the hook? And it's like, give me the top 100 hooks that people can use. Now it's no different than, again, I'll pull this back from email marketing, because this stuff has been around forever, but people are like, what are the best subject lines? Here's the thing with that, is that you brought up a really big point of the fact that it just because it's something that's going to grab attention doesn't mean it's good attention. And one of the things that I found, and I found this as a speaker, is that like I was at an event and they wanted me to be like super hyper, and I'm not that person. Like anybody who knows me, I'm not a hyper person. I am pretty chill most of the time.
No backflips on stage?
No backflips. I'm not a yeller, screamer, any of that kind of stuff. That's just not my personality. Yeah. I'm the guy that I'll go to a concert, I'll sit in the back corner with a drink and just people watch and have a great time, and while everybody else is in the mosh pit, right? That's the way my personality is. And I find that, even when I'm creating content myself, I see all this stuff and I'm like, okay, so, let's use some examples of stuff that's proven to work. And I look at it, I'm like, that ain't me. And that's one of the things I think is really important, is that for me, it goes back to authenticity, that if I'm using something that's controversial, anybody that knows me is going to say, that's not Eli.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people need to think about. It's not just on knowing your audience, which is vitally important, but also know yourself. Is this congruent with you, as well as does it appeal to your audience?
Yeah. That goes to show not all content is good content. I like to think of content as a trust bank, right? You're either building trust with your audience or you're taking it away. And if you are not being authentically Eli, people might not know that who aren't part of your network yet, if they're seeing a piece of your content for the first time. But if 80% of people who see a piece of content is not their first time seeing your content, because you've already established a solid brand, then for those 80% of people who can see right through it, all of a sudden that's a notch down on your trust bank. And I truly believe that all content is building trust with your audience. And you only do that when you stay consistent and when you stay authentically you.
Yeah, I love it. No, that is so good. And it is one of those things, like I'm a big fan of test it, try it out. But if you look at something and you're like, okay, I want to give this a try, and it gives you the ick feeling, don't do it. Just don't do it. Just stop and go back to something else. Because I see so many people, we've got, the shock factor. I remember, and again, you and I come from different, very similar but different industries on that. I'm sure you see this, especially from the speaker standpoint. So many speakers, all of a sudden, after Gary Vaynerchuk got so popular, everybody started dropping the F-bomb everywhere.
Right.
And the thing is, like, I know Gary, and I've hung out with him before. That is genuinely him. Like, it is hard for him to stop. He tries. He will apologize up front. And if he gets away with, like, cussing 4 times during a presentation, he's rocking and doing an amazing job that day. You can tell he really tried. But these other people, they see that and they see his success and they go, oh, that's what I need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
And they start doing the whole, well, I'm just being authentic. Well, no, you're not, because you're faking it. It's like, I mean, yeah, you might have colorful language from time to time, but that's not actually how you talk.
Right. So, and your path is different than everyone else's, right? I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, like, he's dropping the F-bombs left and right. But there are plenty other gurus and other people who are ridiculously successful who have never cussed in their life. I mean, I'm a big tennis fan, right?
Yep.
And Rafael Nadal is one of the most famous players ever. And he, over his entire 20 plus year career, multiple championships, one of the most decorated players of all time, has never broken a single racket in his entire career. He says that it's out of respect for the equipment, and a lot of people respect that, and I have a lot of respect for that. But then you got a guy like Novak Djokovic, who's just as successful, if not more. And we can't even count how many rackets he's smashed over the course of his career. Same amount of success, different path to get there, different behaviors, but both authentically them. And it's hard to So what you're saying is exactly right. I mean, if that is authentically you, I'm not saying that professionalism means you have to quit cussing no matter what.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's got to be authentically you. And if that's not you, and it's not me, I don't feel right when that doesn't mean I have a great mouth. Just ask my wife, right? Sometimes the potty mouth comes out, but in a professional setting, that's not me. That feels uncomfortable. And you said it too, Eli, like what you feel can make it. A lot of people just push past their feelings because this is how I'm going to become successful. If it gives you that icky feeling, I think is what you said. Mm-hmm. That's so well put. That's your ultimate litmus test.
Yeah. By the way, that's a technical term, the icky feeling.
The icky feeling? You trademarked that yet? Because I like it.
Yeah. But it is, I agree with that so much. And I think that you did talk about another big one too, is know your audience. That's is your audience going to resonate with that? Because if they're not going to, you probably should tone it down or whatever. For me, that's a big one. It's like, as a speaker, I know there are certain audiences that I can get away with saying things that I would never say in front of another audience. And so it's like, I gauge the room to know, okay, who's sitting here, because this might be really effective for this group over here, but these guys today, that's not going to fly with them. Sure. And so you got to tweak it sometimes. This has been great stuff. I love it. So what is for podcasters today? Everybody and their dog is now launching a podcast, right? And even several cats, right? We already talked about, make sure you've got your mic set up properly. We talked about cameras. I love the fact that you said it doesn't have to do with the best camera, but your lighting is very important. And just for clarity, we're not talking about expensive lighting either. Like these lights that I use cost me, I think, $40.
Yeah.
It wasn't expensive. Yeah. I got a new one I started playing with, and I think I paid $20 for the one, and I might buy another one because it was pretty cool. It's got more of a soft feel, so I'm like, maybe I might go with that. Yeah. Because that's another thing too, is that when it comes to podcasting, you don't have to spend a ton of money all up front. You just start where you are, and I definitely like to hear your thoughts on this. If somebody's starting a podcast today, I would say the microphone is the most important piece, because most people try to think about the camera being the most important thing, and it really isn't. So what are your thoughts in that arena? Is like, okay, so what do we do if we're just getting started out, not ready to hire production or anything yet? So they're not ready to hire you yet, but if they're getting going on this, what are the couple of 2-3 things that they really need to know to make, okay, here's the checklist of the things you need to plan out to get your show up and running?
Well, I would make a T chart right away. A T chart. And on one side of the T chart, I would list out technical requirements. And on the other side of the T chart, I would list content, inspiration, and ideas, because those are two very distinct parts. And some people are overemphasized on the technical requirements and totally ignore the content and just say, yeah, my podcast, it's going to be about, I don't know, whatever. Or just we're going to talk with awesome, interesting people of all different backgrounds for all different people. And then all of a sudden they have some of the best technical setups without a focused, clear niche topic. So I'll start on the technical side, because that's one that a lot of people really want to make sure they've dialed in, and that is important. A microphone. Yes. Ideally, you're using something external, not an internal microphone in your computer, although they've improved. The best quality microphones are going to be external. Some of them are USB plugins. Those are pretty good. Usually those aren't on the expensive side as much. Some of them go through an interface if you're looking to spend more money, through what's called an XLR connection. But the best way to start is wherever you are and whatever budget you have. Maybe that's just a $50 mic from Walmart. That's okay. That's a great start, because ultimately the key is going to be consistency. So you have that. We all have $1,000 cameras in our pockets. So usually the video camera isn't the most pressing issue, like you said. Maybe you get a light to make sure you look good, look professional. However you normally look in a professional way on a Zoom meeting, that's how you want to look and sound to at least start your podcast. You can always upgrade later, and I highly suggest you do upgrade later. The other side is the content side, and this is equally, if not more important. And even though I'm an audiophile, nerdy guy when it comes to audio stuff, the truth about podcasting is it's all about the content. People are willing to forgive slightly lower quality for great content. And early on, you want to make sure you've identified an audience. You've identified what value you're going to provide that audience, and you've made a commitment to consistency. That's the most important thing. There are about 4.5 million podcasts in the world right now. Less than 400,000 of them, that's less than 10%, are active and putting out episodes weekly. In fact, less than half of them have even made it to 10 episodes. So make that your first goal. Get yourself in the top half of all podcasters before even investing crazy amounts of money in equipment, simply by getting to 10 episodes. And find that niche, find that content inspiration, and again, be consistent with it. That's what you need to know straight up from a podcast. So many people think, well, I got to have all these ideas and all these things lined up properly. Just start, make a commitment, record a few episodes before releasing any, so that you have a nice little backlog, and make that commitment to consistency. And you'll already be light years ahead of the majority of podcasters.
I love it. Very, very well said. And you brought up a couple of really good things with that. Was number one, get to 10, because it's still that stat just blows me away. How many people talk about, that most podcasts never make it past the 5th or the 10th episode. And I'm just like, really? I mean, my first show was 100, and this one we are now 83, I think. 83, 84, something like that.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me. It's like, all right, you gotta, if you're going to start it with the goal of sticking with it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I just get so confused when I see people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing. And then they fizzle out way too fast.
The bar is low. The bar is
so low. Yeah. Well, and I think, when you were talking about like with the microphone and stuff like that, I think it is really important to have, again, it's not an expensive microphone. It's a respectable microphone. Don't use your earbuds. Those are not going to be good quality. And I know you brought up the whole XLR stuff, and most people probably glazed over and like, what is that? I have no clue. And that's okay. If you don't know what it is, that means you're not ready for it. So don't worry about it.
True. Good point.
Plain and simple. USB, you know what that is. It, plugs into your computer directly. And there's even like, what is it? Is it the Samsung, like AT20 or something like that? I don't remember the model off the top of my head. It's like an $80 microphone, and I think that includes a stand. And they're good quality. That's a good starting mic for people.
USB mic, yeah. Which means plug it right into the side of your computer. No other equipment needed.
Exactly. Yeah. And so stuff like that is like, okay, spend a little bit less than $100 for a mic, spend less than $100 for some good lighting. Yeah. If you want to go with the webcam, I do recommend, upping versus what's built into your laptop, because those are usually crap no matter where you are. But the camera that I used for the longest time was a Logitech C920. That model still exists. It's been around for like 15 years, and it's still an amazing low cost mic, and it's like $60.
Yep.
With that, you're where are you at? What do we figure? $250 maybe.
Yep.
You've got amazing stuff. And if you don't have that up front, start with the microphone, then get the lighting, then get the new camera. Just one piece at a time. That's what I did with my stuff. I literally started buying one piece of equipment at a time. And now I have 5 lights. Because I have the green screen lights. I got 2 of those, plus 2 here, plus the new one I was just talking about. I upgraded the camera. At one point, I even had a second camera. I took that down because there's just too much stuff. Multiple monitors, all this stuff. But I did this over time.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it all at once. Do it in little small steps.
And you don't have to have it before you start. People get into the paralysis of, I need to have it all. And entrepreneurs go through this too, right? All the time. We're like, well, I have to have this all figured out before I can start. No, start and figure it out as you go.
Yeah. Have a good topic to talk about, have a good conversation, and take it from there. As we're starting to wrap up here, but I got one more thing I want to talk about before we really wrap things up, because I think it's really important. And this leads into what you actually do when should somebody look at engaging with a production company to take over for them? Because I think a lot of people don't really know what that looks like and where, when are they ready for a production company to come in and take care of that side?
Well, when it comes to podcasting, especially, there's not a certain amount of episodes or a magic number that you need to hit before you can think about outsourcing production. It really comes down to what you want the quality of your podcast to be and how far you want to repurpose it and take it to different platforms and become your entire content engine. So more so than how many downloads or followers you have or whether or not it's monetized, I would suggest it's how confident you are that this podcast is an accurate representation of you. Because hiring a production team, one thing it will do is magnify your presence. It will magnify. If a good podcast production team will produce content, not just make the podcast sound and look great on YouTube and on Spotify, but they will make a podcast go further for you. So that means podcast short clips that are going to go out on all those social media platforms for you. It means maybe even putting together graphics and little promotional pieces for your podcast. Podcast production team is not just going to make it look and sound better, although hopefully they will do that too, but it's going to make your podcast a bigger piece of your content creation. In fact, what I like to do with my clients is say that your podcast can be your entire content creation engine. You don't have to so much worry about creating a post for Monday, for Tuesday, for Wednesday. Your podcast outsourced can be all of that for you. So it really comes down to how confident are you in your podcast? Are you just experimenting? Don't outsource yet because you haven't figured things out, right? Probably like you, Eli, like if somebody's just experimenting with email marketing, they're probably not ready to outsource their email marketing, right? And their follow-up strategy. They may know that you do great work, but they're not quite ready for that because they're still figuring it out themselves. So I would say, how confident are you in your podcast? Have you developed an established audience where you're at the point where you've built trust with enough people? You've dialed in exactly who your niche is. Can you describe to me in 2 sentences or less the type of profile of person who's listening or viewing your podcast? Once you can describe those things, and once you're confident that you want your podcast to stretch beyond just a podcast, but into an entire content strategy, then I think you're ready to pull the trigger.
Nice. Love it. Awesome. All right. Good stuff, my friend. So we are at time to start wrapping up here. So as always, I got two final questions. Let's one's the easy one. That's the how do people get a hold of you. But sure, before we do that, the second to last question is a question I ask everybody every single time, which is, this is the Meet Cool People show. So what do the words meet cool people mean to you?
Man, meeting cool people is just what we've done here. Whether it's creating content, whether it's just having a good conversation with somebody. I mean, like Andy Grider, talk about cool people. He's pretty awesome. If you don't know Andy, check out that episode earlier with Eli. But yeah, meeting cool people is all about having those genuine conversations, those unfiltered conversations. Sometimes there's some F-bombs in there. Let me tell you, Andy and I have had some very heated, interesting discussions. And it's connecting with those people who might not be like you, have those different backgrounds. They can be cool people too. We don't want to just live in an echo chamber of who we are. We want to expand and diversify those people that we know. And that's something that Andy, the guy who introduced Eli and I, definitely has been to me. And Eli has become kind of a fast friend in that way too. You guys are cool people because you're authentically you. I could count on you. We've already built enough trust where I know that you are going to be authentic. You're not going to BS me. You're not going to put on a facade to try to impress me or whatever, or try to sell me or whatever. Cool people are people who are ultimately authentic, push you a bit past your comfort zone or past your echo chamber, and ultimately are always there to just have a great conversation and kick back and relax with.
Love it. Thank you so much. That was really good. All right. So last question here. Again, this is the easy one. How do people get a hold of you?
Jon Goehring on LinkedIn probably be the best way. The last name is spelled a little funny, but it's Goehring. It's a German name. really unfortunate to have. I mean, maybe I'm going to change my name to Smith or something, but then again, the SEO is better when you have a little bit more complicated last name. Can you imagine how many John Smiths there are? So Jon Goehring on LinkedIn, great way to contact me. I always respond to my DMs there. So if you slide into my inbox, I would love to have a conversation with you on getting your podcast off the ground, or just, hang out and chill and meet cool people. I would love to meet a cool person if that's you. JonathanGoehring.com is where you can see samples of my work and, all that kind of stuff, learn more about what I do professionally. But yeah, happy to chat, especially on LinkedIn. That's by far my favorite platform and the one I'm most active on. So feel free to send me a DM there or an email at john@jonathangoehring.com.
Awesome. And if you are sending him a message or an email or whatever, be sure to tell him how you got connected with him, that you heard him on the show. Because I can tell you from personal experience, when somebody says, "Hey, I heard you on this show," I am much more likely to respond much quicker. So I'm going to say, John, you're probably the same way, huh?
Absolutely. And if you say that you heard me on Eli's show, Meet Cool People, what I can do is, if it's helpful, because I don't do this with everyone because I have to protect my time, right? And we can't just say, hey, anybody can have 30 minutes of my time, but you are welcome to 30 minutes of my time if you're listening to the show. And I'll send you a Calendly link, book a call if you want to pick my brain on anything podcast related, anything audio production related, how to get out of your career in radio. That's another one if that's you. Happy to talk about anything with you. No strings attached. Not going to try to sell you anything. Just would love to meet you. If you're listening to the show, that's how you found me, would be happy to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. That was good. I did not, just so everybody knows, I did not know he was going to say that. So thank you. It's awesome, my friend.
Thank you, Eli. It's been fun.
All right. So this has been a great show. Had a blast with it. Thanks, John, for hanging out today. And definitely a lot of wisdom put out there. I knew it was going to be good to begin with, but it was actually more fun when we can talk about like the comparisons. That like really got me on the things that you and I both do, just in a different way. And I was like, all right, this is even better. It made me think even more, which is awesome. I love it.
Great. Well, we can learn from each other, and I really hope that you're in my network for a long time, Eli, and I hope I can support you in any way I can, because you've been an awesome to talk with for the past couple of times we've talked, and thanks for featuring me on the show.
It's my pleasure, my friend. All right. And for everybody else out there, get out there, have an amazing, amazing day. If there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out, let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.